Hey guys, welcome back to another Black Clover breakdown. We're going to be breaking down the Royal Knights arc and kind of the start of the Elf Reincarnation arc, only because apparently the wiki is wrong. Where the wiki says it goes from episode 66 to 96, but a lot of people have told me that the Elf Reincarnation arc starts earlier. So what we'll probably end up doing is covering those episodes in this video, because I've already watched up to episode 96, and then we'll recover some of that plot back in the next arc breakdown when we do the Elf Reincarnation arc breakdown. So in this video, we are going to be talking about the arc, breaking it down, pretty much just quickly going over some parts of it, because I want to dive more deeper into like the character development and what it really meant for the story going forward and what kind of big revelations we got. But of course, with saying that, we have to start somewhere, where we are going to be starting with the little mini festival arc at the start of this, which I thought was great. It was a great in-between the Witch's Forest arc and this arc. Just kind of give us a nice breather. Doesn't have to always be like epic moments after epic moments, but it gave us some good moments to set the tone of where this is going to go, especially with Austin, you know, getting recognized for what they've done because of everything they've done so far. And I thought that was great. It was a nice little fun arc, having fun moments, but also just giving us great character moments for characters like Noelle, who, instead of being one of those high mighty royals or noblemen who were just looking at the peasants as filth and disgust and wasn't even helping this little girl who had no choice to being a peasant, but she needed help, and everyone overlooked her until Noelle stood up, saying that all the royals should be extending a helping hand. They shouldn't think of themselves better than everyone else, and that they should be helping everyone because people should be able to have fun no matter what. This is just a festival. Everyone's here to have fun, and when you have everyone thinking they're better than other people, they just ruin the vibe. So I do like how you have Noelle being the one to stand up, because it shows where she came from, right? She was always a person who was very like, oh, I'm better than you. You're nothing. Until she met Asta. And Asta changed her. A peasant changed her mind. And I really like how she's grown a lot over these episodes, because she's really gone from someone who thinks of themselves as better than everyone else as someone who can connect to other people on a different level and see that even though you might be considered a failure, you're not. So I really like how they did that. Plus, in this little mini part, we got Kahono and Kyoto getting healed, which I thought was awesome. I didn't honestly think it would happen this quickly. I felt like it might have been a couple more arcs before we got there, but it was great to see that the Witch Queen gave Asta her magic and healed them. So now they're able to do their performances. They can be their famous selves with dancing and singing, which I thought was a lot of fun. Now back to Asta and, you know, getting recognized. I loved how it started, because when they were getting ready to talk about it and Yami just chucks Asta up there, because all the Black Bulls knew that it was Asta he was talking about. So I love how they kind of set that up, just showing the family being supportive of their anti-magic kid. And it was just a lot of fun, especially when Yuno starts to show off their power by going to attack Asta and getting Asta to attack him, just to show everyone that these peasants who came from the boonies are strong and that they have something to prove. I also loved how everyone stood up for the Black Bulls when everyone was questioning why they won. They're not just a bunch of ruffians, they actually do good work and they actually save people like the Magic Knights are supposed to. So just some fantastic moments to start off the arc before we started going into the Royal Knights exam. And I do like how they also set up that the king is kind of a meme in this point, where everyone likes the Wizard King, but no one likes the actual king. So just a lot of fun setting up these moments that brought us into the Royal Knights selection exam, which pretty much is just the Royal Knights selection exam is to select the best people to go against the Eye of the Midnight Suns and protect the royal city. So I do like how they set that up to pick the best of the best, having a competition to go from all the squads to figure out who would work for this squad. And it was fun to see how it started off, giving us that introduction to Zora, who we will talk into more detail later. And I loved that they had the hint here that the Wizard King knew who he was, because he didn't mind that this disruptive member just showed up out of nowhere, came in, and started acting like he owned the place. So it was great to kind of set that up, because I had my theories going forward, and I love theorizing about this character as we went forward into this story, because it was like, oh, who is this guy? He's obviously pretending to be this person. He doesn't fit here, and he fits more like a Black Bull, and I loved how all the little pieces start to fall into place as we progress through the story. But honestly, with the battles, a lot of them were just battles. It was just cool to see characters stand up for other ones, like Asta standing up for his friends and other players, and really showing what it means to be a royal knight, giving us speeches, and just setting up the stages for showing that these knights aren't the best. Some of these magic knights are kind of rude, they think they're better than others, and they really look down on other squads. Where then you have other ones who are ready to pair up with other characters, work together with them, and achieve their common goal. And, you know, when we talk about some of the battles that happened during this, which we will get more deeper into some of them later, the more notable ones were Langris versus Finral, because obviously Finral standing up to his brother, something he's never really been able to do. Also getting a backbone because of the Black Bull supporting him and helping him realize how good he can be. Having Vanessa start off by hyping up Finral because he's made all this progress over the last few arcs with getting stronger and working as a team as they took on the Eye of the Midnight Suns. Like, he's really been pushed forward because of Asta. And it was cool to learn that Finral learned that spatial magic cancels out spatial magic if he uses it right. So it just shows you how much he's being able to learn to be more of a defensive person, because he's more support. That's all he's been doing so far, is supporting Asta and everyone else. So he can fight in a different way that's not just attack magic, which is great to see, because you need that as well. You can't always just be on the offense, you have to be on the defense as well. And it was cool to see that Finral made a homing missile spell where you teleport someone away, and I love that he teleports Seke into Yami's bathroom. Like, it's just funny. It's just a funny moment to add to this. It's just like a nice funny moment that takes away the tension for a second, but it works so well with the scene. And then we had that power awaken in Langris, which is the Eye of the Midnight Sun's power, like Veto and Fauna had, which I love that Asa and them are all the kind of knows what's been going on, seeing that his grimoire, his magic is set off a giant attack against Finral, showing that this power from the Eye of the Midnight Suns with the elves is stupidly strong. And someone's been toying with Langris, which turns out to be Vengeance, who's been controlling him this entire time. But it was cool to see the reason he was this way was because of this magic, but also because of his backstory, which we will talk about in a bit, which really shows when Finral gets put full of holes. That's still one of the top tier moments out of this entire arc, is Finral getting pretty messed up and also having the Black Bulls all pull up for some epic freaking stand down going against Langris when Langris went full crazy. That was obviously the best fight out of this entire part of this arc, and I really liked how they did everything around that. Some of the other notable battles, though, really quickly, were Yuno versus Rill, Noel versus Solid, and Asta versus Langris. All stuff we will get to in this video, but I just wanted to point out those right away because those are ones we will be focusing on more as we get into the different sections of this video. And I do like how this exam set up some pretty good stuff for some of our characters, like showing off Mimosa being more strategic and also having attack moves. Rather than being just a healer, she's actually able to send off like a solar blast, and she's doing a fantastic job leading the fight with Austin and Zora. And I thought it was great character development because when we first saw her, she only ever healed and she really didn't do much. So after not seeing her for a while, getting her back in and seeing her do some pretty cool moves kind of set the stages for how much she's grown so far, even though we haven't seen it. Plus, then other moments we had was like Luck working with Klaus to make that giant crossbow that shot the electric bolt. That was an awesome move, just showing Luck working with other people, kind of learning to, rather than doing things on his own, he's working together with his team. So awesome to show his power as well. And then you have Magna showing off how he has to beat Asta. He has to prove that he's strong because, you know, Asta's been showing them up so often that he needs to prove that he's strong to face his rival, to be in a level with Luck so that both of them can verse each other in the final round. He's setting up his rivalry with one of his best friends, and I do love how they set that up. But unfortunately, of course, Asta won that fight, but I do like how it shows where Magna's coming from and showing how his character is determined to be in line with his rival. Just like how Asta and are both trying to achieve something better, Magna and Luck are doing the same thing. Now, as we go forward, it's time to go into the character development part. And that's what I said from the start. I want to pretty much talk about the characters because every little piece of the arc will kind of tie back into them. But of course, the first character I have to talk about is Asta, because he grew a lot in this arc. I mean, he's grown a lot in every arc, but he also grew a lot in this arc, especially with some of the character moments we got during it. And that all has to do with the part I haven't talked about yet, is Marolina's little camp they went on for the day, that they had to run up the volcano, really showing what Asta had to do to be in level with the other characters and get to know himself first before he's able to unlock that true power that he now has. Really giving it so that Asta needs to learn how to unlock the demon mode on his own rather than in life or death situations. That way it can come in handy, which does come in handy in the World Knights exam because he ended up using it against Kirsch when he needed it, and it wasn't a life or death situation, but he needed it to get rid of all of Kirsch's little illusions that were going on. I love how he learns in this moment that he has to channel his ki into him so he can learn what his body is like, just showing him use some of those skills that he's gained over the last few arcs in order to make himself more powerful, which of course gives us a really, really cool moment of him getting his demon mode out and charging straight in to Mariolina, also taking out that lava monster, showing how strong he is with his anti-magic, but also how he can't control it fully yet, because it took him straight to Marolina. It was a great moment showing Marolina knew she had it in him and how she was kind of rooting for this peasant kid to get stronger and for him to surpass his limits and keep going. Just like how Yami always says, to surpass your limits. Asta was able to do it. He impressed Marolina, and I really like how they set up her character in this arc as well, because her character is pretty awesome. Just being that hard-headed character who pushes forward. You can see she's cares about strength. She doesn't care who you are. As long as you're strong and doing the right thing, she's going to root for you. And then, you know, of course, this arc also showed off how powerful she was, but we'll get to those moments later on. And then I would say that the next part of Asta getting that character development was when he went against Langris. Because during that fight, Langris calls his own brother a cowardly loser who isn't really a magic knight. But then you have Asta, who's calling him out for abandoning people during the attack on Kitten, showing that Asta remembers what he did and how Finral will always help others, where Langris is definitely the kind of person who obviously ditches people. He doesn't care about anyone else. And you have Asta pointing that out, showing that he's not a true magic knight, but Finral is. And I love that because it shows Asta standing up for his friends, standing up for the people around him, and kind of knowing what's right and what's wrong. But of course, then we get to see Asta's determination, like always, where he's taking attacks while he's trying to block them. And he's doing it all for Finral's sake, trying to win for his friend who is just critically injured. And you just gotta love it. You gotta love to see Asta's determination, how much he's grown from his strengths, his skills, just to see him take on this pretty strong enemy, and also learn to trust Zora, allowing Zora to take the control and use his trap magic to block the attacks in order for Asta to charge up his demon mode. Really setting the stages for Asta learning to trust someone he didn't like when the match first started, and then working as a team, which Asta has done really well over these arcs. And the irony of him letting Zora help too is that Zora was questioned why he would even do that. Really, again, showing how Asta is quick to judge people. He can judge people's characters, and as soon as he kind of understands what kind of person they are and that they're truly good, he will trust them with all his heart, and I do love that about him. And also when Asta goes on a speech about what a true magic knight should be with people, or that how they're supposed to grow together and work together to protect people, was fantastic. Just showing off that Asta is gonna be like the symbol that guides the magic knights forward. He's the true ideology of a magic knight: protect the innocents, work as a team, and save everyone you can, showing what it's meant to be a hero, pretty much, and I love it. Now let's move forward to Yuno, and there's only really one notable thing I want to talk about Yuno, and it's his match versus Solid with Noelle. And it's all because, you know, this is his time to shine. He is trying to prove his worthiness of being Wizard King and show up everyone else that he is the best in the Golden Dawns. However, he lets Noelle take over to go against her brother because he realizes how much she needs it, and also comments on how he knows she's strong because of Asta, and she'll be able to do it. Just showing that he understands the Asta effect of making his teammates stronger and more determined, and letting her take control and win, which was a fantastic moment, just showing how Yuno knows that Asta's friends are able to do it and knows that the Black Bulls are strong in their own way. And now as we go forward, we're going to talk about Zora Ideal. And this is kind of a mixed part of the video where we're going to be talking about his introduction, his growth, and who he is. Because when we first introduced to him, he's fighting the Purple Orcas, knocking them out for attacking an old lady, and it's like this really cool moment to show how he's more of a vigilante. He's kind of doing things on his own. He doesn't look like he's part of any Magic Knight squad, and then he takes the Purple Orca's identity. So I do love how they set his character up, because they set him up as a mystery, like, who is this guy? Why is he here? But as we slowly got more to know about him and we got to see his backstory, we got to see how his father was the one that raised him to be a Magic Knight, because his father, who was a peasant and really wasn't the strongest, really fought for the ideals of what a Magic Knight is supposed to be, especially that his father was part of the Purple Orcas, and he raved about how the great Magic Knights are and how they trust and overcome deadly situations together, really showing what it meant to his father to be a Magic Knight. And I loved how they showed these flashbacks, because they also showed it after they kind of looked at Asta, kind of showing that, well, at least I think that Asta reminds Zora of his father, kind of giving us a nice moment to kind of set up who he is. And then we get into the further backstory about how his father put everything into his training to become the best Magic Knight he could be. Even like I said, even though he was a peasant and kept failing, he kept pushing to be a Magic Knight, going to the exams until he finally got it. And I do love it because he was like a cheerful person who was also a prankster. Like, he's just a good-hearted person, which all he wanted to do was be a hero working with his fellow comrades, until he was ultimately murdered by those same fellow comrades because he was a peasant. And honestly, the Purple Orcas have kind of been shitty since we've met him, so I feel bad that Zora got put on that team. However, this is what sets up the kind of vigilante arc for Zora, because he wants to get revenge, in a sense, on the people who doomed his father by kind of going against the Magic Knights, who are the ones who think they're better than everyone else. They think they're above the law and they can do whatever they want, so he goes after them, which then gives us a big reveal of when we first met him, or the reason the Purple Orca vice captain was attacking that old lady was because of her granddaughter, who she hadn't seen in a while. So you had Zora coming in and helping, showing off that he's a vigilante, he's a hero in his own right, and it really shows what his ideals are. And I did love, before we got like the big reveal for who he really is and what's really going on, that we saw how he's giving people criticisms. With his fight against Magna, Kyrus, and Soul, he's talking about how Soul is sloppy, Magna is too fired up and doesn't pull back, and Kirsch is too proud. Kind of showing that he's reading what these Magic Knights are doing, and he's pointing out all their flaws because they're not the Magic Knights they're supposed to be. Even when they went against Langris's team, he called Langris egocentric for losing to a peasant and wasn't right about anything. Pretty much just taking Langris down a notch because he thinks he's better than everyone else, and showing that he's not as strong as he really thinks he is. But then it also kind of shows that Zora has to give criticisms to his own team as well. Like, Austin needs to stop trusting people so easily because he could bite him in the ass, which I feel like is a foreshadow for Austin doing that. But at the same time, Austin's usually right when he trusts people, just like how he was right when he trusted Zora. And I feel like Zora in this moment just didn't want to admit that Asta was right, so he had to say something. And then Mimosa needs to stop trying to make the best choice in every situation. Because she was so focused on trying to make the best choice, she wasn't fast enough to react. So I do love how he's giving people criticisms, but he also gives himself one, which he needs to have more faith in his companion, showing his growth, showing how he didn't trust anyone when he first started, but after working with Mimosa, after working with Asta, he's kind of learned that he needs to start having more faith in these people, because even though he has a negative look on some of the Magic Knights, not everyone is this bad Magic Knight. There are good people within the organization. And of course, during all of this, we get the big reveal that he is part of the Black Bulls, which again, I called from the very beginning when we first saw him, because he always felt like more of that misfit, the outcast, the one that doesn't fit in. And I do love how Yami is the one that gave it to him. He had a fight with Yami, and then Yami's like, you know what? I like you. Here's the Black Bulls cloak. Welcome to the squad. You can use it whenever you want. So it was just like a fun moment showing Yami just pick out these misfits and outcasts wherever he goes and just throws them in the squad, especially because he knows they're strong. They just need to recognize their true strength and what they're meant to be, and they'll be a proper hero. But after everything that happened in this fights and everything else, you have the Wizard King going up and acknowledging him, telling him he knows who he is, who his father was, and then it's time to be a Magic Knight, which then kind of shows that Zora is going to now be a proper Magic Knight after this, which I felt like was also the Asta effect, where Asta is the one that kind of motivated him, made him realize that he could be a Magic Knight, and that not all of them are bad. And also just bringing him back into his squad so he can actually meet all of them, plan to do stuff, and get better and grow with him as well. So I can't wait to see him in more of the arcs going forward, because he's a new character, there's so much to learn about him, and he's a really cool one at that. Now it's time to talk about Noelle, who also had a bunch of character development this arc, and that's all because it starts off with the volcano event with Marilena, bringing them up to the hot springs and teaching Noelle what it means to be strong. The fact that Noelle is different from the rest of her family, and she's more like her mom, who had a big heart. Telling her the story about how when Noelle's mom was pregnant, she knew she was gonna die, but she didn't let that stop her because a mother would do anything for her children, really setting up the strong woman that Noelle's mother was, and how Noelle could be a strong one as well. Even saying that nothing's stronger than a determined woman. Pretty much telling Noelle that as long as she stays determined, she can be the strongest in a fight. And they even give us this little tidbit of information that no one's talked to Noelle about her mom other than Marilena, really showing how terrible her family is. No one's talking to her about her own mother, the one that died giving birth to her, not even telling her who she was, really holding that resentment for Noelle, like Noelle was the one that caused all of this. And it was interesting during this part as well to learn that Marilena could not defeat Noelle's mom, really showing that Noelle could be as strong as her mother and be stronger than Marilena, who is one of the strongest, maybe the strongest right now I've seen on screen so far, other than the Wizard King and Licht, of course. So it definitely shows that Noelle has not reached her full potential. We know she's strong, we know she can get stronger, so it is great to see, Marilena, who is a respected Magic Knight, who is this fierce force to be reckoned with, really is looking out for Noelle and understands her strength that she can be. Talking about how Noelle's mom would dance around the battlefield, how Noelle was a spitting image of her, but the only thing different about Noelle is that she can't control her magic, and that her magic is crude, and it's hard to believe that she's a royal. So after everything, she got all this very touching moments to happen, and then gets it brought down right away, to really show that Noelle has stuff that she needs to work on, and she can't get too cocky yet, which means she must surpass her mother all in her own strength, really showing that Noelle has a lot to achieve, but Marilena believes in her, setting up that just great moment of Noelle going to take on her brother later, because she had that pep talk, she knows she can do it. And even though Saul is a terrible person and an ass to his sister, Noelle was not backing down. Even though they showed us her flashbacks of her being treated like trash and garbage by her family, it really shows that she has a lot to overcome, as she needs to prove to them that she's better than them. And I love when this was all going on, we have Gordon in the background, very quiet, telling her that the Black Bulls are their family now, and that who cares about her original one, just having Gordon being a real G in the back though. And I like seeing Noelle stand back up and saying how she's not afraid of his magic anymore, and he was a little taken back from it. He wasn't ready to see his sister stand up to him, and I love that as soon as she used her Sea Dragon Roar, scaring the crap out of him and knocking him down. Now, Noelle got her moment to prove to everyone she has become stronger, and because 3 people stronger than Salt have acknowledged her now, showing that Noelle has the strength to surpass her family, and I can't wait to see it happen. Now, there's a couple other moments I want to quickly talk about before we move into the next section of the video, and that's Finral standing up to his own brother. He's not showing cowardice, and he's proving that he's stronger than he once was before, because we've seen over the past few arcs that he will be kind of scared wanting to get out of there, but now he's standing business, and he's learned from, you know, his friends around him, and Asta never backing down. Then we got Ghosh, who actually cares more about his friends other than Mary, which we learn later down the road when we get to the arc where the Midnight Suns are attacking their base, really showing that Ghosh went from only caring about his sister to his friends as well. And then we got Kirsch, which was a weird turn of events, which at first, you know, he was kind of talking down to everyone. No one was beautiful enough. And then eventually he recognized Luck's power, another peasant, and he saw the beauty in it. So it really just shows how after everything we saw about him, how he's kind of talking down, looking low on people, he kind of learned to be better in a slight way, where he did learn that peasants can be strong as well and have beauty. Now into the next section, we're going to be talking about the new magic techniques that were introduced, which we got trap magic, you know, spirit magic, and Henry's house magic, which I can't remember if they actually give us a name to it. It's still kind of a mystery, but his base magic, they let him control the base. And Real's paint magic just a little bit as well. Now, first of all, let's talk about the trap magic, because it was cool to learn about this as he has his basic traps, the binding, pit, and landmines. So getting his cool little introduction about which ones were what was cool, seeing that the binding captures, the pit is obviously a pit people fall into, and then the landmines, which is where it blows up. Then there's also the reflective ones where he can bounce the magic off and send it right back at you stronger, which I thought was pretty cool, showing off his different kind of magic skills. Plus, when he uses it on himself to reflect the power, they commented on how that uses an immense amount of mana. So it makes me wonder how strong Zora is. So I'm hoping after this arc, when we get more into the Elf Reincarnation, when we do learn quickly about how he can do that, maybe he has some kind of special bloodline that makes him stronger, because I am interested to learn how that was possible. So now into the next part, which is the spirit dive magic and the paint magic from Yuno and Real. And that's mainly because this is also the part we're going to be talking about the fights, where it was pretty cool to like learn that Yuno has a spirit assimilation where he can bind with Belle and use Belle's power, using Belle's power within him to become stronger, and also using his sense of mana to help do that. Like, it was a really cool moment to show the power that his spirit magic really does, and something I didn't realize they could do. And I love how he wanted to use the power on Asta, but he deemed that Real was a worthy opponent because of how strong Real was with his paint magic, because Real's paint magic could use any attribute, and he could pretty much become anything he drew, which him creeping that kind of dragon that people say that apparently was filler part of the episode. And it was just an awesome fight of them going using their full power against each other and having them destroy that mountain, really showing the two differences between their powers and how strong they both are. I mean, after the Elf Reincarnation reveal, it does make sense how strong they are, so I kind of understand why they got to where they are right now. Now it's time to move on to the best boy, Henry, where we got to meet Henry Legoland and his house or base magic. I'm only going off that because his grimoire was like a house on it, which is the first time we've seen that at all. And of course, after I'm editing this, I realized it actually said recombination magic on screen, and I just managed to not write that down. Of course, I still have questions about how his magic really works because we haven't learned too much about it yet because he just got introduced. But in this part, we're going to talk about his introduction and his magic and, you know, his part of this arc as well. And I do love how his introduction just set him up as the mystery man living in the Black Bull's base. He lived there when Yami took it over. He had some kind of illness that wouldn't let him leave the house, and it would also feed off other mana and absorb it, which left him unable to leave the house because of it. And I do love how Yami was the one that wouldn't let him die because it would be creepy if someone died in the house. That was his whole reasoning. But we all know that Yami actually has a heart and he doesn't want to see that happen. And I love how he's like, well, you just need a rowdy bunch of people to keep you alive. So, and then that's exactly what happened. Yami brought in a bunch of rowdy people who were also really strong magic users, and it kept Henry alive and also boosted his power. And it was great to see that he's actually just been watching this entire time. He's been watching everyone, and they all became his precious friends, even though they didn't know he existed. What I wasn't expecting, which I honestly should have expected, was that Asta was going to be the one that found him, the one that visited him in bed, because Asta had no mana to pull from. He would just show up and be like, hey, how's it going? You know, we're friends. And they talk, and until eventually he'd be able to walk around, showing that Henry, even though he was stuck in bed, he still had at least one friend who would come and keep him company. Which then kind of gives us an explainer for his magic, how he's able to control the base and shift it around, which I always thought that he would have been the base, that the base can go anywhere he is. But I do love how he turned it into a raging black bull and attacked using some recombination magic. But after this arc right now, he's out of magic and the house is kind of stuck as a destroy base. But I guess we'll see what happens going forward. But I do love how this was just another character that Yami brought into play. And I love how he was like, one day you'll put this on to protect your friends. And now with the Eye of the Midnight Suns attacking in this arc, it was the time he had to put it on, become a proper Black Bull, and protect his precious friends. Literally taking the enemy on with the Black Bull's base, transforming it, and going against Sally with her giant salamander was an awesome moment. But I do love how they also gave us moments with Gordon and Gray working as a team, standing up and being stronger, and then using their magic as a combo magic, poison with the poison magic to take down the salamander and then transform it as well, because Gray can transform other things that aren't just herself. So really cool to have all that set up and just giving us more characters, more magic techniques, and setting up what these characters can do if they work together. Now, to wrap up this section of the video, we talked about character development, some of the fights in the Royal Knights exam, and then the new magic techniques introduced. We will be going on to more of the Eye of the Midnight Sun infiltration next and the revelations, but I do want to say that I do like how the exam gave us some cool team-ups between characters, how they had to do the different objectives-based stuff with the different maps by attacking the crystal, learning how to defend it, and all of that. So we got some cool moves during there, and if there's any other fights you want to talk about in the comments, let me know and we'll go over it. But now let's move on to the Eye of the Midnight Sun infiltration, because I feel like a lot of bigger things happened in that part of the arc, where the other one was just kind of like a fun team up, seeing people work together and seeing what they can do. Now, of course, this next part of the arc started off with choosing who the Royal Knights will be, which we got Marilena as captain, Asta, Noelle, Luck, Klaus, Yuno, Mimosa, Rill, Zora, and more, because I don't remember half the other B-side characters. And then Nozzle also joined the team, which I did like the moment where Nozzle joined the team and Rill was like questioning why he didn't participate in the Royal Knights, but Captain didn't have to participate, and Rill was just like, oh, that just kind of shows how childish Rill was, but also he had a lot of fun playing in those matches, so it makes sense why he joined. And it was also funny to see that Asta got the smallest robe, and someone was pointing out that the reason that happened is because Asta needs more freedom to swing his sword, which honestly makes a lot of sense. He needs more mobility, so him being kind of trapped in this robe doesn't make much sense for his character. Now, it was great to watch them raid the Midnight Suns hideout, and of course, this is the section of the arc too where things were jumping back and forth between Gray, Gordon, Gauche, and Henry, and then also the Wizard King. And so a lot of stuff was going on during these sections. So for this section, we'll mainly talk about Marilena and Asta versus Raya, and then the Wizard King versus Licht, because those things were like the major things that happened during this arc. Obviously, we saw some cool power moves, like Nozzle actually did something cool. We also got kind of a moment that I didn't mind from Nozzle, which was him, being like he wanted to attack the Eye of the Midnight Suns for revenge for his rival being taken out, which was Fuegoleon. So I do love how they kind of gave him a little bit of motivation, and maybe showing that he might not be terrible. There might be some surprising things coming from Noelle's family. Maybe they're not all bad, but I don't trust him still, and I'm looking forward to getting proven wrong or maybe proven right. So as we go forward, I do love how the Raya fight started, with Raya showing up as a copy of Asta, and I think it was fantastic how the way Marilena figures out who the right one is by setting them both on fire. Mostly because she knows that Asta isn't weak and can survive it, so the best way to do it is just, hey, we'll see who freaks out first and doesn't nullify the magic. So So I will never not get over that moment of her just setting them on fire, not even thinking or anything. Boom. Okay, we know who's real, we know who's not, and then we're gonna go forward that way. Which I love how Rai's just like, what the hell is going on? I think that kind of set him up to think this lady's crazy and that there's a lot of shit that he's not prepared for. But it does set up some pretty cool fight with Rai using all different attributes, because that's what he can do. He has copy magic, so all he does is touch the grimoire of someone, and he's able to use that type of magic. Which we see him using all these different ones, and we even see him using the Purple Orca's invisibility one, which we kind of do learn that he was there during the Purple Orca's captain arrest during the whole meeting with other Magic Knight squads, because he was pretending to be Vengeance. And I love that Asta was the one that noticed that he was using the Purple Orca captain's magic, so it all tied back into that plot, where we'll talk more about that big reveal later on. But I do love how there's been details throughout all these arcs to set up all these kind of mystery that's been going on. And this fight too just showed off how strong Marilena is, proving her strength by pushing all her mana into her fists as she just punched the living shit out of Raya, showing how her close range combat is insane. Like most of the mages who fight, they attack from a distance, where Marilena gets up right close and starts beating the crap out of you and shows how insanely fast she is. One of the other top tier moments from this arc was this fight, and how Marilena was just on a different level. And I love how they pointed out that she also just lived most of the year in the woods and would train that way, just showing that this woman is insane. She also introduced us to mana zones, which was pretty cool, an area of effect that makes it so that any attacks hit. So I love how they kind of use this. It was pretty cool to watch her just kicking the shit out of Raya. And it also just showed that the reason she's able to move so fast is because of that, because using a mana zone allows you to move more freely. And it was interesting to learn that Raya, when he uses his copy magic in this fight, he reflects his own strength. So some of the moves are actually stronger than they would have been when we saw him get used by other people. And that he can only use one spell at a time. However, it turns out that he cannot copy Asa's anti-magic, even though he can copy Asa's sword. Because that was an awesome moment showing Marilena just punching the sword and destroying it in an instant and risking it all, because that could have ended terribly if it wasn't just a weak copy. And I loved how when Marilena defeated him, that he was talking about how this is not a strength he's used to, where this is a human strength and not magic powers that's defeated him, kind of teasing what's going to come in the elf arc, where elves, you know, they have strong magic, but the human determination and human physical strength is on a different level. And I find it interesting that the third eyes have kept continuously trying to self-destruct when they're losing. We had Veto do it the first time until Yami was able to stop him. We had Fauna trying to do it, but luckily Mars and Asa was able to reach to her before she did it. And then this time we have Raya, but luckily, because Asa's seen it happen 2 times before, he's able to put a stop to it and even gets mad at him for just throwing his life away once again, and then calling him out that he just wants to understand him, why they have all this hate. They just want to talk. He wants to know what the hell is really going on. Because Asa, he just wants a future where royals, commoner, peasants, and people, or even people who are not human, to live together in a free kingdom where everyone can smile, which is just like what King Julius wants. The Wizard King, he wants a world just like this as well, which is where the Wizard King and Asta reflect off each other, and how it makes sense why Asta wants to be Wizard King, because he wants to create this world where everyone can be free. And I like how Rai comments that he used to know someone like that, the first Wizard King, and Licht, and it makes me feel like Asta could be that bridge. Because obviously the Elf Reincarnation arc is just an arc, right? So I feel like the elves are most likely going to be around after that arc, so having this character who can bridge the gap does make a lot of sense. But that fight was awesome, just giving us those big moments, showing how strong Marilena was, giving us mana zone, showing us how the copy magic works, and then just giving Asa being his usual self, being awesome as he stands up, just wanting to understand the person he's attacking rather than beat him to a pulp, because obviously something bigger is going on here, which we will all learn about with the Wizard King versus Licht fight, which we're going to talk about right now. And that's because the entire time, Vengeance was the traitor. He shared a body with Licht, which turns out it wasn't actually Licht, but we'll get to that as well. And I liked how it was 2 souls in 1 body, which really means that Yami was right this entire time. In Kitten, he talked about his key, his face, everything seems similar to Licht. Because Vengeance had the scar, it couldn't be Vengeance. But turns out, the faces swap and they're the same person. But I thought it was interesting that Vengeance, even though he's not a terrible person, he still cared about the Wizard King and he cared about Licht, where he understood Licht's pain, and the Wizard King is the one that took him in and cared for him and trusted him. But because he understood Licht's pain, Vengeance became Licht's only human friend, he couldn't really pick one or the other. They had to choose, which I still think is kind of a cop-out. He let it happen, but it gave us those other big reveals about Fuegoleon knew it was Vengeance because he's the one that put him in the coma and took his magic stone away. And then the Wizard King had a feeling it was him too, which I was like, okay, if you guys, if you had the feeling it was him, should have done more preemptive measures to stop this from happening. But to be fair, you want to trust that your friend, the person you raised, took care of, and mentored, wasn't actually, the bad guy you thought he might be. And then this is where I figured out that Raya was pretending to be Vengeance during that council meeting, and because Licht was recovering in that moment. So Vengeance couldn't be there, and they had to put in a proxy to pretend to, make sure everything was going on properly, to make it seem like no one was hiding anything. So that's where that big reveal came out of, and I honestly was not expecting to get that reveal, so I love that these little pieces I somewhat remember always come back into play, and it's always fun to see theories become right. Because I said Vengeance was sus from the very beginning, and he was. Just not necessarily the same way I thought it was going to be. And the start of the fight was really touching too, because the Wizard King understood Vengeance, his kindness, and for treasuring Licht, and how this kind of stuff being a fight for Vengeance's heart, where Wizard King wanted to save his friend, but also understood that Vengeance cared about both of them, but Licht wanted to also take down Wizard King for his own goals. It's kind of a two-way street here. The start of the fight was cool too, watching them blitz all over the place as they rushed to attack each other, the Wizard King brushing it off with ease while Licht kind of looked a little crazy as he was doing it, and then finding out about the Wizard King's true power with the giant grimoire in the sky that has no cover was insane. And it makes you wonder what he's hiding, because no one else is like that. And I don't know, there's something wrong. I get an eerie feeling, but now he's kind of dead or dying. So who knows what's actually going to happen next? Well, you do, because you've seen it, but I haven't. But I do like how the Wizard King said that his magic will take people's future, which is also why he can't lose, because the future he envisions is the one without discrimination, like Asta, showing that this character just wants to help people around him make a better future. He also can take people's futures and stop them from going down the wrong path. So it's insane to watch him like rewind time, prevent stuff, pause stuff. Like, it was just awesome to watch the Wizard King do this, especially when he uses all his magic in order to stop Licht from killing everyone in the Clover Kingdom, using a spell that's similar to the one that killed all the elves by sending down all the light arrows to kill them all. But this was the downfall, of course, in the fight, because that's where the Wizard King used up all his power and he had no way of protecting himself. But that's like a hero sacrifice there. You know you can't save yourself, so you're going to protect your entire kingdom, which just shows how much everyone meant to the Wizard King, which I thought was fantastic, showing off what he was willing to risk for everyone else. Now, my biggest question is, who the hell is going to be the next Wizard King? I don't think it's going to be Yami, but I don't know who else it could be, other than maybe Marilena, but that doesn't feel like her role either. And one of the lines they dropped during this fight too is that Licht saw the Wizard King as a creation of the universe that was meant to stop him from altering the course of nature, which is kind of interesting, because it's kind of true, where he was like, Licht's whole goal was to revive people and bring them back after they were all killed. That's the natural order, and he's breaking it. So of course it makes sense that he put something in his way to stop that, kind of adding more details to this magical world, because they could have left it out. They didn't have to do that, but it kind of implements more about what's really going on, and how much stakes are really being risen at this moment. We did get a lot of information during this fight about the Wizard King and his past, and I thought it was interesting because they did, like I said before, how his grimoire having no cover and being gigantic kind of seemed a little suspicious with the time he saved up, because like, how much time was he able to really save up? And now as we dive into the Wizard King's past, it was great to find out more about him, and how he kind of gave me more of suspicious feelings about how this man could have went down a very dark path if it wasn't for Zara. And that's because he was rising through the Magic Knights ranks, he was getting stronger, but he started to see how terrible the royals and the nobles were, how they looked down on the lower class, and how it made them arrogant, and they only cared about lining their own pockets, which is so true. We've seen it time and time again with them always doing that. But when he commented saying, why were they even alive, really screamed villain. But then when he found Zara, that's what gave him purpose. Seeing this man who was a peasant, who didn't really have a lot of magic power, putting everyone else above himself, even saving innocents at the risk of his own life, which you wouldn't really see from some of the royals and nobles. They'd rather just save themselves than save the people around them. So it kind of shows you the different ideologies that could change a person. And I loved how Zara was the one that didn't care about achievement and only cared about the people, which made it so that the Wizard King understood what a true Magic Knight is supposed to be. And that's how it ended up happening. But when Zara died and the Wizard King found out the Magic Knights did it, he realized that both peasants and royals have potential. So he rose to the top in order to make the changes so that people could be freer and that we could stop some of this discrimination. He knew it wouldn't happen right away, which is obvious. Whenever you kind of do stuff like this, it never happens right away, but it's like a trickle effect. When newer people start coming in, it starts to get better and better as the new generations make up the new Magic Knights, which is exactly true with Asta and and everyone that's around right now with their characters, is that those two are kind of making these Magic Knights those type of people. So I do like how they set all this up with his big fight with Licht, killing him, showing the villains win, because sometimes when you have to do shows, you have to have the villain win. It's the only way to progress stuff. The heroes can't always win, and I do like how the heroes didn't win in this presence, but so now they have to deal with the complications of what just happened. With Licht getting the magic stones, sacrificing the Eye of the Midnight Suns, which I still wasn't expecting him to sacrifice those people. I thought some of them might have been elves as well, but nope, they got sacrificed, they got talked down to, and they got disrespected right before they died. But then that brought us to elf reincarnation that gave us is an elf, Rilla is an elf, Ghost is an elf, and so many other characters that we still need to talk about, but holy crap, I was not expecting that. So now as we move forward, it's time to talk about the backstories to some of these characters. We can get like 6 backstories in this arc alone. Starting off with Charlotte, where we learn why Charlotte loves Yami. Even though Yami's so dense he doesn't realize it, at least they make it seem that way. We get to find out why she loves him, and that's all because she had a curse put on her as a child. When she turned 18, she would be put in a cage of time, and she vowed to get stronger to do it. She didn't need no man being able to do it herself. She was determined to be as strong herself to be able to break it. Unfortunately, that determination kind of led her astray because she wasn't able to do it. The curse took over, and Yami, a man, was able to save her. But the fact that Yami didn't like gloat or anything when he did it, the fact that he just did it because she made him spill food, shows that Yami is different. And the fact that Yami also said that she doesn't have to do everything herself, that there are knights that are strong that she can rely on, shows that Yami trusts some of the knights within the organization, and shows Charlotte that she can also trust in some of her fellow knights as well. She just needs to learn who she can. And I think when Yami says that he likes strong girls, it kind of points that, first of all, that Charlotte's strong and that he likes her, but also points out that she was strong. She proved herself. However, the curse just wasn't something she could do on her own. No matter how strong she was, she just needed someone's help to stop it. Which in the end, her love for him broke the curse. So I do love how they kind of set that up, showing that Charlotte's a determined woman who's strong and she'll do everything herself, but she also has learned that she can't do everything herself. Kind of one of the things where you have to ask for help. You have to learn to do that. Now we got Yami and Vengeance having a mini backstory here, starting off their rivalry, showing us where they started and how Vengeance states his goals to be a Magic Knight captain, and so did Yami. And I like how they set this up. Yami was on a mission, they teamed up, then they became rivals, just kind of setting up where they came from and why they've been rivals for this entire time. And it's kind of funny how they both became Magic Knights, but one became the best, the captain of the best squad, and one became the captain of the worst squad. Just showing the irony in that. But it also gave us the birth of their squads and why they wanted to make them. Yami wanting to make a squad for the people who didn't belong and were hooligans, and that's why he created the Black Bulls, which has been so true so far with all the characters. They've all been kind of weird and misfits of society. Then Vengeance wanted to create the Golden Dawn because he wanted a light that was shining even in the dark. And if he vowed to make the best Magic Knight squad, which he did, all to honor Lord Julius. So I like how they set this up, because this backstory was just to give us the origins of the Golden Dawns, the Black Bulls, and also the two captains. But also it gave us this big story to motivate Asta into not giving up. Because even if you lose, you can stand back up and push through it to become stronger and surpass your limits. So just Yami being a cool teacher, motivating his students, and also just giving that importance to what Yami and Vengeance meant to each other with the Wizard King to make the Wizard King's death more impactful and the Vengeance betrayal even bigger. Then we have another captain's backstory with Rill, where we learn he's just kind of like this depressed artist. He can't come up with any of his work, so by doing that, he's destroying his room by throwing a fit. He has like writer's block in a sense. And I do like how this sets him up, because he's just so focused on his art that he's kind of numb to the world around him. He's not realizing what he's doing until his butler, who he's cared about, put himself in danger, got hurt, and was able to snap Rill out of it. Then giving him purpose by showing him the Magic Knights and how he can find a great canvas and do bigger things. Giving Rill this purpose in life, and I think by joining the Magic Knights, that was able to kind of push his character forward from being this kid trapped in his room to someone who could do things with his life. And now that he's an elf, I feel like there's bigger things to come from him as well. Then we got Soul's backstory, which I thought was interesting, where she came from a village where she wanted to be strong, she wanted to protect, but all the boys told her to leave it to them because that's what guys are supposed to do. They're supposed to protect the girls. But then when push came to shove, the boys were useless because they all ditched her when she actually needed help, showing that she can't rely on anyone until Charlotte comes up, saving her and giving her that motivation to become stronger and join the Magic Knights, giving Soul purpose and showing that she's strong, and her village might not respect her for that, but if she joins the Magic Knights, that strength will be appreciated. Then we have a vice captain with Kirst getting his backstory, at least a little bit of it, with him calling peasants unsightly and vile and criminals after the little kid steals some bread to feed themselves, which you have Mimosa in that moment also as a kid pointing out that the kids needed food, so they did it. And, there is some kind of niceness to this, not just all criminals because they're trying to feed themselves, they're just trying to survive. And then you even have her calling her brother beautiful later in the end after he recognized a peasant for their strength, showing that he's grown a little bit, showing that the Royal Knights exam has taught him a lesson that all peasants aren't bad and that there's beauty in them as well. Now, during that Magic Knight exam, we did get Finral and Langris's backstory together because they are brothers. Finral was always the failure, while Langris is always the one that was the successor, and it's all because of his parents. Their parents ruined these kids and turned them into the monster/cowardness they are today because they made Langris believe he was better than everyone else and that he could never be any less, and that they made Finral feel inferior by saying that he was a failure and that he couldn't do anything right, really showing that if they supported their children in a proper manner, Finral probably wouldn't doubt himself so much, it wouldn't be so hard on himself, and Langris might have not went so egocentrical crazy. But the thing is, the moment Finral was called better for being a nice person by the woman that was supposed to be their wife, made Langris go crazy, because Langris is supposed to be the one that is the best. Finral cannot be better than him, showing that deep-rooted I need to be better than everyone else feeling from his parents really ruined their childhood. But even though in the future, after Finral tried to move on with his life after leaving his family, he still cared about his younger brother, showing how much of a kind person he is, and also why the Fennis, the girl that was supposed to be Langris's wife, why she called him a better mage for being kind. Because it shows you that you don't need to just be powerful to be a mage. You need to be kind as well, because your kindness and your power will prove what kind of person you are, where if you only care about power, you're not going to really care about anyone else other than yourself. But it does turn out during this flashback that both Finral and Langris had different moms, which is why Finral wasn't an elf and Langris was. So it does make sense that that's why his connection to the Iron Midnight Suns worked in that fight, because of all that. And I do like how they also pointed out in this backstory that Finral still tried to be friends with Langris. He still cared about his brother and wanted to help him, but Langris was so focused on being better, he couldn't live with people liking Finral more than him. Again, shows that deep-rooted trauma, which turned Finral into the cowardness he was, and Langris into the villainous egomaniac that he truly got turned into. In the end of the day, it was all their parents' fault. If it wasn't for their parents not caring about their kids in a proper way, they might have not turned out the way they did. Now it's time for more Black Bulls backstories as we talk about Gray and Gordon and the mini backstories we got, where we learn that Gray has just always had no confidence, and people thought she was weird because she used to transform into her big form to kind of make herself feel more confident. So it explains why she's always in that giant form, is because she was scared of being seen with no confidence, which is also why she always covers her face. Even though there's really nothing wrong with her, she just has some deep-rooted trauma that we still need to learn more about, which I kind of hope we learn more about. And then we have Gordon, who came from a family who practiced curses of all things and wasn't allowed to have friends because of that, which because he wasn't around friends and couldn't really do anything, it caused him not to be able to speak because he just had no one to talk to, and that's why he's so quiet. But I love that they were both alone, and then the Black Bulls accepted them, having Yami pull in some weirdos and misfits that didn't have anyone else into this family so that they could have friends and families with their different types of magic. And this was just a really wholesome moment of them wanting to protect their friends, standing up, both of them screaming that they're there to save their base. Like, it's just really good moments to show that they found their home, they found their place, and that's why they're here today, is to protect what they care about. So their little mini backstories gave us a little deeper meaning into who they are as characters, and I do hope we find out more, because it's like everyone else has had some pretty long backstories, but they haven't. So I'm hoping we see more, and it's not just these snippets and that's it. Okay, now the final backstory we gotta talk about is Lick's backstory, which is not actually Lick's backstory, and it's actually Patry's backstory. However, the way it started was with Lick meeting the first Wizard King and his sister. They were going to have a child together. It was like this nice happy life that he was going to bridge the gap between these two races, and they both had 4-leaf clover grimoire, showing that the first Wizard King and Lick both had that 4-leaf clover. And then we get more information about Fauna, Veto, and Raya, who were all Lick's good friends, and we even get Patry, who was another. And the thing is, they showed us the whole backstory of them getting killed again. Like, they like to show that a lot, of the elves being murdered ridiculously every time everything big happens. But it did give us the reveal that Lick used this big forbidden spell in order to resurrect people. At least that's what Patry thinks was going to happen, because of Patry being the only one to fully resurrect, but into Vengeance's body with Lick's face, which kind of puts him on a path of needing to complete this goal, because that's what Lick would have wanted. And it's really interesting to see how they set that up, because there's still so much mystery. Obviously, that's going to be answered in the Elf Reincarnation arc, but I do like how it gave us that, like, what's going on moment. And this section, too, is the part of the beginning of the Elf Reincarnation arc. At least that's what I've been told. So it is interesting to see how they're starting this arc off. Having Patry go around with Lick's face, reviving Veto, Fauna, and Raya, all in order to help him hunt down the humans and resurrect his people, showing how dark his story is going, as he's the one that wants that vengeance and that he has that rage, and he wants to take down the people that wronged him, which is ironic because he kind of did the opposite of what Lick wanted. Lick wanted to have a world of peace and community, as the two worlds were merging together, with Lick marrying the first Wizard King's sister. And the thing is, he blamed the first Wizard King because he was the only one who knew about the elves, and it was light magic that attacked them. But with that, I still have my suspicious feelings. Like, my big questions about, was Lick's spell really a resurrection spell, or was it to summon the giant demon? Did the giant demon come from Lick, or was it someone else to make it look like the elves were attacking, so when the Wizard King fought that giant demon, it attacked the elves? So pretty much my biggest suspect is it actually a third party that started this conflict to have them go against each other, because it feels like it might have been. And it also makes me question if Patry was really trying to bring his people back, or if there was more to it. The big questions that I have sus feelings, there's been little hints here and there that something else is going on, where it looks like it's clear and simple. If you're just looking at it without diving into it, they are like reviving their people, they're getting revenge. But then there are little hints, they're like, wait a second, like the Wizard King and Licht were good friends. Why would the Wizard King just betray him all of a sudden and kill his own sister? That makes no sense. Licht reviving everyone, why did it only revive Patry and not everyone else? That also doesn't make any sense. So there's just so many little elements that are like, okay, what might be going on? Something bigger, and I can't wait for the plot lines to be revealed. Now, when we talk about the impact on the story of everything going on, we have the one team that was created to attack the Midnight Sun, showing all the strongest. So that makes me wonder if the Royal Knights will still be a thing after all of this, or if they're just going to be the Royal Knights just for this one mission. Then you have them ultimately failing their mission with not being able to stop the Eye of the Midnight Suns, because Patry was able to successfully resurrect the elves, turning a bunch of our characters into them with, you know, Klaus, Luck, Ghost, Charlotte, and there's so many more. So just setting up what's going to come. And we still have so many other characters to probably get revealed as elves. Kind of wondering what other Black Bulls might be. And it definitely feels like Asta will be the main character now to want to understand what the elves were, and probably wants to help them so that they can actually live in peace and live in a world where they're not trying to kill each other. And the fact that the Wizard King died sets up huge complications for the Clover Kingdom. Like I said earlier, like who's going to become the next Wizard King? Yami and Marilena feel like good heads, but I don't feel like they're the right fit. Maybe Fuegoleon if he wakes up, but I'm not exactly sure where they can go with this yet. And then we had a couple foreshadows I saw with the elf in the bubble having that sword, which could go to Asta getting another sword, but because that elf has a sword, when we've seen that Licht in the past has said that his masters had the sword, it does make me feel like this is the real Licht in this bubble, and that's what's going on here, is that Licht is going to be revived, he's going to have a sword, but who knows how long he's going to survive until Asta gets that sword into his grimoire. I take that all back. I just realized something. It just clicked in my brain as I was recording this. So we got an elf in the bubble with a sword. We had Licht, aka Patry, say that his master had that grimoire and the sword before. But at the same time, we know that Licht had a 4-leaf clover grimoire in the past, which means that there might be a third party at play after all. Holy shit, because there must be someone before who had Asta's anti-magic and his sword and his grimoire, which isn't Licht, which wouldn't be Patry's master. So that means Patry is talking about someone else that we haven't met yet. I mean, it could be that person in the bubble if they end up not being Licht, but I feel like it is Licht. It feels like it would be weird if it wasn't. Holy crap, there's so much to learn now. Anyways, back to the foreshadowing for future events. Obviously, all the people being turned into elves is a foreshadow about, you know, if they're actually going to be themselves anymore or if they're going to get turned back to who they are. Which, when we talk about the next thing I have here is future theories, which we kind of talked about it before, which my main theory is someone summoned the giant demon to attack the Wizard King, and those attacks went through, which was light magic, which ended up attacking the elves, making the elves think that the Wizard King betrayed them. Because again, why would the Wizard King kill his own sister? But also, if the Wizard King wasn't actually attacking a demon, was Licht using the forbidden spell to resurrect, to create that giant demon in retaliation for that light magic? Like, there's not a lot, like they have a lot of stuff. It's like, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this, and there's still so much to come. Now, with the kind of two theories I have going on here, there is a lot of things that could come from this, and I can't wait to see how it plays out and if I was right or if I'm wrong. But overall, this arc was amazing. There were so many things that happened during it, a lot of big revelations, a lot of big character development moments, and I recorded for way too long. It's gonna take me forever to edit this video. So if this video did not come out on Tuesday, I am sorry. I'll try to do better next time. But goddamn, there was a lot to talk about. It was awesome. I can't wait to talk about more Black Clover. Let me know, what do you think about this arc? Are there any moments I missed or anything I was wrong about? Let's talk about it in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like the subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot, and you get to stay up to date with all my Black Clover reactions and breakdowns. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later when we watch more Black Clover.